I always thought the scariest things happened in dark forests or abandoned buildings, never in my own backyard, never in the water behind my house. Until that night.
That night, the summer air clung to my skin like a thin layer of salt. I was 21 years old, and during college breaks, I often stayed alone at my parents' house, a large colonial-style home tucked at the edge of an upscale neighborhood. The back of the property sloped gently into a man-made pond, about 100 feet across. On the other side of the water was a public park, silent and mostly deserted after dark. The houses around us were spread far apart, each veiled behind rows of tall oaks and thick hedges. It was usually the kind of quiet that made you feel safe. But that night, the quiet felt dangerous. I was sitting in the sunroom, walls of glass facing the pond, watching TV as the ceiling fan spun lazily above me. The bluish light from the screen flickered off the windows, casting back my own reflection so that it looked like someone was watching me from the outside. Scout, our aging Labrador, was curled up at my feet, softly snoring. The sitcom I was watching had lost its charm an hour ago. I wasn't really paying attention anymore. I just needed something to fill the silence. Then, I heard it. A sharp splash. Not a casual ripple, but a full-bodied impact. I sat out, thinking maybe it was a flock of ducks landing in the water. But then came more splashing. Too rhythmic, too loud. Heavy movements, like someone swimming. A second later, I heard humming. Deep, slow, and unmistakably human. I stood and slid open the glass door. The night air was heavy, still. I stepped onto the wooden deck and turned on the floodlights. A bright beam exploded over the lawn and lit up the pond. The splashing stopped instantly. The humming vanished mid-note. Whoever it was had seen me. I scanned the water, heart thudding. No movement, no ripples, just an unnatural stillness that made every hair on my body stand on end. I backed inside, locked the door, and pulled the curtain tight. My fingers fumbled for my phone, and I shot a quick text to my older brother, Ethan. "Someone's in the pond, swimming, really weird. Can you come?" The message sent, but he didn't reply. Scout lifted his head and let out a soft growl. I muted the TV and sat in total silence, straining to hear any sound beyond the glass. The crickets chirped, the trees rustled faintly, and then breathing. Slow, raspy, just outside the window. I froze. The breathing grew louder, and then a voice, deep and scratchy, whispered, "I see you." My blood turned ice. My mouth worked before my brain did, and I stammered, "Paul? Is that you?" Paul was a neighbor who often joked around, sometimes tapping on the window when he passed by on a late-night jog. But there was no answer, just the sound of footsteps crunching away on the gravel path. Scout barked sharply, lunging toward the window, his growl turning guttural. The air suddenly smelled of algae and damp earth, like someone had brought the pond in with them. I backed away, trembling, and called Ethan. My voice shook as I tried to explain, but he picked up on my fear right away. He said he was on his way, bringing his girlfriend, Mia. Then I called my dad, who was working a night shift in the next town over. He stayed calm, but firm, told me to turn on every outside light, grab the baseball bat from the hall closet, and lock every door. I followed his instructions. The bat was heavy in my hands, but its weight gave me a sliver of comfort. I flipped the switch in the kitchen to turn on the rest of the yard lights. The lawn lit up like a stage, casting long shadows across the deck and down toward the pond. That's when I saw them. Wet footprints. Big ones. Human. Leading from the grass to the side of the deck, each one glistening under the light like a dark smudge. There was even fog on the glass door, like someone had been breathing against it just seconds earlier. I didn't even have time to panic before Ethan's car screeched into the driveway. He and Mia jumped out, wide-eyed and tense. Scout ran to the door, wagging his tail, but still alert. Together, the three of us followed the wet trail around the corner of the deck. The motion sensor light clicked on just as we rounded the edge. At first, I didn't see it, but then I noticed a pair of eyes, peeking just over the edge of the deck, just the top of a man's head, forehead wet, dark hair plastered to his skin, and those eyes, wide, blank, staring directly at us. Ethan raised his bat and yelled, "Who the hell are you?" No reply. The man didn't flinch. He didn't blink. He just stared. Scout barked sharply, lunging toward the window, his fur standing up along his back. I finally found my voice and called 911. The operator asked for my address and told me to stay calm. Officers were en route. We slowly backed away, inching toward the front of the house. I bolted the doors and lowered the blinds. For the next 7 minutes, we waited in tense silence, bats in hand, hearts pounding. Every creak of the house felt like footsteps. Every gust of wind sounded like breath against the glass. Finally, red and blue lights spilled across the walls. 2 officers arrived and combed the yard with flashlights. They followed the wet footprints around the deck, all the way to the pond's edge, where they just stopped. No clothes, no towel, no footprints leading away. Just an eerie void, like he had vanished into the water. We filed a report. The police promised extra patrols and advised us to call again if anything strange happened. My parents got home around 2 a.m. My dad immediately ordered security cameras and motion lights. My mom sprinkled salt on the windowsills and door frames, a family tradition she claimed warded off spirits. None of us laughed at her that night. In the following weeks, I barely slept. Every night, I would wake at random hours, certain I had heard that rasping breath outside my window. Scout began barking more often, always at the pond. The new cameras sometimes triggered, but playback showed only shadows and swinging branches. One afternoon, Mrs. Harper, an elderly neighbor down the street, heard what happened and came to talk. Her voice trembled as she told me she'd seen something similar decades ago, a pale figure swimming in the pond late at night during a full moon. She whispered that the park used to be a burial ground, and when the town expanded the pond, some graves were never relocated. I wanted to dismiss it as superstition, but something deep inside me believed her. Life went on. My dad installed a tall wrought iron fence around the pond. Motion-activated lights went up on every corner of the house. I went back to school. But sometimes, when I return home and sit in that same sunroom, staring out at the shimmering reflection of the park lights across the pond, I get the distinct feeling that something is watching me back. And if I sit there long enough, I swear I can hear it again. Wet, rattling breath just beyond the glass. Then, almost inaudibly, the voice returns. "I see you."